Hey everybody, we're live after a shocking game. I don't know of anybody who picked the Chiefs, or maybe
Yeah, you do. Don't you look at the videos on your own channel?
uh, I should look at them before the game. I am so busy adjusting and making sure broken websites are fixed that sometimes I miss things. So I apologize.
No
Uh,
problem.
I am happy to report that Dr. Bill predicted the Chiefs' outcome. Therefore, Dr. Bill, tell us what happened.
So some of the things I said would come to pass did. I said the team that won the turnover battle, but that usually is very decisive when teams are evenly matched anyway. So by protecting the ball, as Mahomes has done throughout the playoffs, not a single turnover, right? If he continues that, they'll win another Super Bowl. If he doesn't turn the ball over, they'll win against whoever you will put against him. I said that the Chiefs defense would play an incredible game, and it did.
Oh,
And they did that largely without a Minu, who made that one great play early on and then was hurt and missed the rest of the game. And they had to work around him, which thinned out their frontline rotation, but they survived it. Frankly, the Ravens didn't go up tempo enough to take advantage of it anyway,
no.
which will be, I guess, a whole other show. Uh, they
Yeah.
they didn't decisively win the running battle. They probably could have. They didn't run the ball as much.
And Bill, I, you finish and then I'll say that because I asked you to talk, so I'll shut up. Sorry.
So I said for the Ravens to win, they'd have to have a decisive edge in the running battle, which they did not have. And like I said, they would have to win the turnover battle, which they did not. And once those two things didn't happen, I didn't need to know anything else. I could tell you if you just told me those two things, the Chiefs would win. The Chiefs have the ability, and shout out to Steve Spagnuolo, who
Yeah.
has been a great defensive coordinator for a very long time. He didn't just blitz often, though he did blitz often. He blitzed well. The blitzes were well timed, well disguised, and came from a lot of different places. Last but not least, I tried to pick out someone who I thought would be the X factor. On defense. I chose someone that wasn't the right person. The person should have been Justin Reed. It should have been Justin Reed. Justin Reed made several big plays and came this close to salting the game way early. If he catches that ball that he tips up, that Lamar runs under and gains the first down, they get the ball again in the just outside the red zone
Yeah.
and certainly score. And that would have been pretty much the game at that point. But Reed had a great game both in blitzing and in coverage. Trent McDuffie, always great in coverage. Like people don't realize how good a secondary that is. That may be the most complete secondary in the NFL.
All right. My issue that physically hurt was the Ravens, first of all, not once called a design run for Lamar. Not once. A. B. Overall, their game plan did not feature the kind of short passes and bubble screens and flat passes that would have gotten the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands quickly and not put him into the position where he's trying to look for his first read. It's not there. And it looks like maybe the Chiefs were playing a coverage they didn't expect because Lamar, a lot of the time, looked like he was really perplexed when he was going back to pass. But the Ravens coaches put him in that position by not calling quick, short, one-step passes. By contrast, we seldom saw Pat Mahomes in that position because they were doing what? Calling quick, short, one-step passes. Football is a game of physics. And as I've finally said many times, the most superhuman players on the field today are on defense more often than offense. And that game proved it because the speed of the defense, if you don't respect it by play design, it will eat you alive. And so what happened was, and what ensued was what I call the magic spiral. You are taking too much time trying to throw. You're not getting it. You're getting a quarterback sack. Your line's getting tired. Your defense is out there trying to stop the opponent's offense, which, by the way, happens to be having their quarterback get rid of the ball quickly, thereby tiring them down because they're on the field longer. And then when you get the ball, you're not doing anything with it. You get frustrated, and then you make more and more mistakes and penalties when they shouldn't happen. And eventually that frustration boils over into personal foul penalties and unsportsmanlike penalties, and that's exactly what happened. The Ravens quite literally collapsed under the weight of their poorly designed game plan. In system theory, there's always a few drivers for any complex system. And in this instance, what happened with the Ravens was they simply did not have a repertoire of short passes and runs for Lamar. They had one brilliant drive. In fact, when they scored, where they had a mix of running pass, and Lamar ran off of what was to be a pass at first. But, you know, my point is they were able to gain yardage because they actually ran around and they controlled the edge. Then they forgot about it. And I would love to talk with the Ravens coaches and find out exactly what was on their mind. They structured a game plan that way and consistently fell into the Chiefs' hands. They didn't throw to the backside of the backfield. They didn't move the pocket with Lamar. Nothing.
Justice Hill had a decent game catching the ball. I think he had 30-something yards receiving. But they could have done more. Both Gus Edwards and Justice Hill are good receivers out of the backfield. They had a couple of screens to Isaiah Likely.
Oh, can I clarify something before you continue? When I say pass backs out of the backfield, I mean classically flat passes where the running back is running to the line of scrimmage and then runs the out pattern, right? Something that's so dastardly short that it's like a long handoff. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they didn't try to throw to the backs. I'm talking about the nature, the way they design their plays. I'm saying that their play design to start with was just awful. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think that there were some issues in play design, but even more issues in execution. And obviously, we can't know who did what because I don't know their assignments well enough to know who made mistakes. But there were definitely times when I saw, okay, Ronnie Stanley obviously gave up that big play to Minu. And I don't think he was supposed to expect help there. It looked like he was supposed to just squeeze in and try to fan out and turn the menu outside, and he wasn't able to do so. I mean, he just beats him very quickly, and then boom, gets to Lamar. So that looked like just a man, single, like there was no help expected. But there were times when guys looked like they were expecting help and didn't have it come, or they didn't get the protection call in correctly, one or the other. And so there wasn't help coming, but for some reason they thought their help was coming. I noticed also a few times either Lamar thought somebody was going to make an adjustment based on something they saw in coverage, or there was a mistake in the actual play call. Now, once again, I don't know enough about who's calling what and when to know if that was in the design of the play or somebody. Remember, they have a lot of young receivers right now. They have Odell Beckham Jr., who's a veteran. Everyone else is 3 years, and of course, Andrews at the other tight end. But everyone else is 3 years or less in the league. Bateman's in his, I think, third season. Flowers is a rookie. Well, okay, Aguilar is an older player too. Aguilar comes on in like their 4 receiver sets and things like that as an older player. And he was in the slot some too when Beckham wasn't.
There's something I want to address here. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill. Were you going to say something? You said a but.
Oh, the but I was going to say is all the things you're saying are I'm not disputing what you're saying, but if they'd run the ball more, a lot of that stuff wouldn't have mattered because they would have forced Justin Reed, instead of being this playmaker all over the place, to come down in the box. And now Justin Reed isn't wreaking havoc everywhere.
Yeah, my point is that this person says, and Lamar's the MVP, that's hilarious. That's not hilarious, but it goes into what I'm saying. A player is an MVP because that player is in a game plan that allows that player to do what that player does best. The reason why Lamar has been an MVP, it was an MVP for the second time, is because he was in an offense that favored the fact that he can run, but also the fact that he could pass, either roll out or drop back. This game had no runs by Lamar Jackson. And my point, if I'm the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, I have a repertoire of plays out of the 4x1s, which I favor, where Lamar would actually run around the weak side, and I would have, instead of having to split in as the lone wide receiver on the weak side, I would have the tight end. I would have the split in as tight end, and even put the tight end in and replace it with a 300-pound tackle and make sure I seal that edge and give him a run, all right? Just to screw with him. My point is, this is the AFC Championship game. You don't come in with your standard approach, but you don't come in with something that takes away why your MVP player is MVP. So I highly disagree with it. Lamar Jackson is an MVP. The Ravens came in with a game plan that reminded me of a comment that Jim Turner, the Broncos kicker, said in Super Bowl 12 regarding the Dallas Cowboys and why the Broncos lost to them. And he said, and I quote this: "We were out there thinking about winning. They were out there thinking about football." And the man doing all the thinking was Tom Landry. I'm sorry, John Harbaugh is no Tom Landry. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. And remember, this is their first year in that new offense. To be fair, they have a lot of young players in that offense, and everyone is young in this offense because it's their first year in it. Now, I think the second year in this, if, assuming that I'm assuming Monkett doesn't leave because I think all the jobs are pretty much gone now. So
Yeah.
looks like he's going to be there next year as our offensive coordinator. It means they're going to run the same offense again next year.
And I would think he would want to.
With some, well, I mean, at some point, I think he does want to, but I don't think it's yet. But the
No, I mean, I would think what I meant, Bill, is I would think he would want to stay, if only to, fix
right,
this.
right.
You know?
Right. No, I think at some point he leaves, but not this year. Right. I think he does intend to. Well, he does. He has to now. Right. The music has stopped on chairs and film, but but the offense will look a little different next year. He's going to implement more things. They kept some of the Roman offense though because they didn't have time to fully get all of it out of there, and they'll keep little bits of it. But if there ever was a time for them to look like the Greg Roman Ravens, it was this week, and they didn't do it.
Right.
Because Greg Roman ran Lamar a lot. Hence the first MVP.
Yeah, right.
The first MVP he wins is because of Greg Roman.
Right.
Who deserves more credit than he gets also. But Greg Roman would have seen especially what the safeties were doing. The chief safeties were doing a lot of very interesting things. They were roaming, they were inverting, coming, sometimes at the mid-level, sometimes right close to the line of scrimmage, sometimes very deep. Spagnuolo gives them a lot of freedom.
But not only that, Bill, that situation occurs when you play a symmetrical offense, because then the safeties can move and roll. When you play asymmetrical offenses, 3x1s, 4x1s, motion shifts, you make them stay put in a predictable way.
Right. And you tell them what they're going to do as opposed to them
precisely. Precisely. And that is, as long as Todd Monken has been coaching, I am surprised and shocked that he put his own team in that position. But then, of course, Todd, being Todd, is going to undoubtedly blame his players. And if he did this to Jameis Winston, that's why Jameis, got after Todd on Twitter, because he used to communicate with him that way because he would respond. But my point is, he better not blame Lamar for this. And I want to take something too. Let me make something. You're trying to make this into an issue, sports that is not. Josh Allen is a fantastic quarterback and player, okay? I am not arguing who is the MVP. The simple fact of the matter is that Lamar Jackson is, Josh Allen is, they both played at a very high level, and their game plans got them there. So if you're going to be here, you're going to have to stop the left-right stuff and all the ignorant conversation. You're not thinking intelligent level on our level. If you can't do that, I'll boot you. I'm serious. I don't have time for it. Bill, what do you think of...
I've watched Josh Allen's career from his redshirt sophomore season onward, and he is one of the most improved players in the history of football when you think of where he is from where he came from. He's an incredible story and one of my misses, right? I mean, I thought he would struggle, and he did, obviously, early on, but he turned it around. Shout out to him and how much he's improved. What a great player he is. The thought that the Bills would have an easy time against either one of these two teams is difficult to agree with simply because I've seen the Bills struggle with lesser teams.
Yes.
The Bills have some of the same issues you just talked about when you talked about the Ravens. At times they get too fixed on doing things the way they've done them, as opposed to exploring the weaknesses of the defense. And there are some teams that say, we don't want to change what we do. If we do what we do is at a high enough level, we'll win anyway, blah, 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 as opposed to saying, I'm going to change what I do to fit the situation.
I call that Neanderthal ball.
Well, I mean, if you're good enough, you can get away with it. If your team is always the better team, you can get away with it. The problem is when your team is not the better team.
Right.
Right. I mean, Vince Lombardi literally shrank his playbook every couple of years from 22 plays to 17 plays He was down to 12 plays with a couple of variations by the last year he was in Green Bay. But you can do that when your team's just that much better. You cannot do that when your teams are evenly matched. And that's what this game was a reminder of.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this game was a reminder of. And yes, that
Let me,
last comment was correct.
let me ask you. Zay Flowers doesn't follow that ball. He scores a touchdown, different game.
Well, I mean, we could say a lot of things make it a different game. I think it makes it a much more exciting game where we're not watching somebody run out the clock at the end. I think it's back and forth more. But also the Chiefs got much more conservative than they normally would have. Like if they'd scored more, they would have called a different game. Andy Reid, to his credit, has changed a lot as a play call.
Yeah.
Old Andy Reid would have done something cute. A reverse pass by Kelsey, that kind of stuff, right? He took a lot of that. He loves that stuff. But to his credit, he disciplined himself.
Yep.
He walked into Baskin Robbins and just had a little taste of vanilla and walked out, right? He didn't have a big old Sunday. He has so many plays. Nobody knows more football plays than him.
Who does? Hey, Bill, who does or did rather because they have a new offensive coordinator. Last year, what Andy Reid used to do, the Eagles. Remember those ridiculous trick plays they would run and they weren't getting them anywhere? I thought, what is this? There you go.
Right.
And
Andy Reid has been a victim of that as well. Sean Payton does it sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But certain teams have so many interesting, fun plays. There's so much fun to call that you're calling a play based on how much you like it, as opposed to it's fit to the situation.
Hey, let's wrap this and watch the other game.
Yep.
Tell me.
I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, tell us who you think is going to win. Niners are right now. The Lions are ahead 7-0. It's 3:16 left in the first quarter.
I would love to see the Lions win for a bunch of reasons. One, people could stop, getting on them but never making it to the Super Bowl. And also for my friend who lost his wife not too long ago, who was a huge Lions fan, Demetrius Virgins. Shout out to you, Demetrius, who of the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. But I'd love to see it just happen because I love things that haven't happened before. The 49ers are the better team. They should be able to reel the Lions in, but I would love to see the Lions win this. I did say the Lions would not allow the 49ers to cover. So
14-0.
Yep. Well, there's a flag. We'll see what the flag's on. But I said they wouldn't cover. So I guess against the spread, I did pick the Lions because I don't think there's this gap that people think exists doesn't exist. The Lions are a really good football team. Don't let the name fool you or the history fool you. This is a very good football team.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not be shocked at all. Like I said, I picked them. I didn't pick them to win outright, but I picked them to deny a cover.
Real quick, Sportsman, thanks for the great question. What do you think of Ken Dorsey being offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns? I saw they hired him. I think he's fantastic for Deshaun Watson. What do you think, Bill?
Another feel-old moment. I remember when this kid from Orinda, California, signed to go all the way across country to play for Miami, and he got compared to Bernie Kosar a little bit because of his build and slightly curly hair in those days. But I've watched Kenny Dorsey's career from the time he was 17 years old. Yikes. But here's the good news. He is going to give Deshaun more answers to the test. And what I mean by that, he's going to take some things off of Deshaun's plate. He's going to take some of the things off, which some people may think is insulting or whatever. He's a veteran. He's been away for a while. You could see the rust. You could see he's lost feel for the game and certain kinds of passes. He's going to say, hey, Deshaun, these are things you're still doing well. I've broken down all your tape. You're going to see Deshaun get on the move more. You're going to see called runs. You're going to see, giving him just half the field to read. And then as he regains some of his old stature, as he feels the flow of the game again, they'll start expanding out the playbook. But he's going to simplify some things for him. And they have a good enough running game that they don't have to, just go out there and throw the ball 40 times. They only have to do that if they get down significantly. But if they can get out and get a 10-point lead, which they're capable of doing as a lot of teams when they're running the ball down your throat, now Deshaun's throwing the ball when he wants to, not when he has to, and he'll soon be the old Deshaun again if that happens.
So let's call that, and we'll be back to decipher what happened between the Niners and the Lions. Although this is getting out of hand, or so it seems. Hey,
it'll tighten up again, I promise you.
Thank you, Dr. Bill. Don't move a muscle. Hey, everybody, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube for our next live stream tonight and through the week. And by the way, Zenny62 Media is credentialed to cover Super Bowl week in Las Vegas. Now, for health reasons, but we'll see. All right. But my point is, it is a compliment to the National Football League that we have had or enjoyed this privilege for now a generation in some going back to 2005 in the NFL draft. All right. That ends this stream. You don't have to move a muscle, Bill.